Hi, love. Hello.
Hello.
We are live. Hey, everyone. My name is Sarah Lavonne. This is my sister, Hannah, and we are live here today on my channel. If you haven't been to my channel before, this is baby number two. And so this is also our second live where we are going to be talking about, where we are going to be talking about Hannah's postpartum experience. I have been a part of her postpartum experience for the last month. She'll be a month on Monday. And so we have done a lot of things. We did things differently this time. We're going to share the entire experience for postpartum breastfeeding, what she's doing, what's working, what's maybe not working. And hopefully you can glean not only a lot of tips from this, but also learn from her story as well. We'll see how Riley does. This is Riley Lavonne, and she is going to chill with us as long as possible, but otherwise somebody's going to take her if needed. But say hi, Riley. Are we just saying hi?
Are those lights bright?
Are they bright for you? Cool. All right. So for those of you that are here live, welcome. If you have questions for us, feel free to ask questions in the comment box. This will be saved. So if you can't stick around, we don't know how long this is going to go. We were just talking. We're like, I hope we remember a lot of the stuff because we are very much in the swing of things now. So hi from L&D. It's baby time. Hi, Sarah and family. I just gave birth to number 3 days ago. Perfect timing for you. So that's exciting.
Congratulations.
I know. Congratulations. Good luck, Jessica. Okay. All right. So do you want to pass her off or you want to try to keep her? I think we just need a nook. Maybe someone could bring us a nook. I also have questions from Instagram as well, where a bunch of you ask questions for us, a lot of breastfeeding questions. So we're going to give as many breastfeeding tips. Hannah, you can share your experience and we'll go from there.
I think we'll probably pass her off.
Okay, let's pass her off if you want to go pass her off. I will get us started here. So if you haven't seen part 1, there is a part 1 where we told her entire birth story here live on YouTube. She also told her story with baby number 1, Dakota, who is 2. It was the height of COVID. And so one of the biggest differences between now and last time was the fact that there still is COVID, but I was actually allowed in the hospital this time. Now, one of the things, Grandpa, if you hear a man's voice in the background, that's just Grandpa doting upon little sweet Riley. So I actually was able to stay in the hospital, this amazing hospital, United Children's in the Twin Cities. If you are in Minnesota, they are incredible. I was so impressed with their care. They let me stay as her postpartum doula, which I very much was. And so we got set up and started on a completely different foot. Is that the no? We got started completely differently this time than last time because I wasn't in the hospital. Do you want to just give a quick summary of what happened last time? I feel like that'll give some context of how we did things different this time.
Specifically breastfeeding or just the postpartum?
Yeah, like the postpartum, everything. Yeah. So now we've given birth. Okay. So we're picking up the story. We gave birth. If you haven't seen that, go watch that another time. But now we have gotten to the postpartum period, which is skin to skin. Baby is there, and we'll pick up in the delivery room, I guess.
Sure. I mean, I feel like
you remember so much.
If you have children, you're like, okay, that was only a month ago, but what happened? But the first time around with Dakota, basically the summary is that somebody stuck him on my boob at some point, and then in the delivery room, and I barely remember it. And then we transferred over, kind of slowly breastfeeding, but obviously there's a lot that's happening. Mm-hmm. And my first nurse was amazing, just helped me, and I felt like I was okay, I can do this. And then felt pretty alone, felt pretty oh my gosh, now, okay, I guess it's been 3 hours. I better feed him. And just kind of didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. And it was pretty stressful. Kind of reached out for some help. And I don't know, it was maybe because I was just so delirious. I don't know, but just felt like I didn't really feel like I was getting a rhythm or understanding. And I felt nervous that he wasn't getting enough. And then I think
He was
maybe
really
wasn't
sleepy.
getting enough. He was super sleepy, and then he ended up getting jaundice, and we had to do belly lights. And so there was a lot going into this time where I was like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to do that again. The belly lights were really stressful, and we got to do them at home, but still it was just like a lot extra in those first days to have to like keep him on those lights for so long and everything. So yeah, I think last time the birth part felt like really positive, and the after in the hospital felt pretty stressful. Like, he's not eating. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel really insecure. And and just like comfort level with those you help with, like you can connect really well with one nurse and the next nurse not as much, and not feel as comfortable, and just not feel like, and that's just, who knows, personality and whatever. But yeah, just feeling pretty like alone and not sure what I was doing at all. So yeah, and then this time I think I was nervous and was really like, I hope Sarah can stay with me, because last time we were like, we need to get out of here. One, because it's COVID and you're in a hospital. You're like, okay, I just want to go home. But like, secondly, I was like, I have a lactation specialist like at home. I can like help you with this.
like an expert. Let's get out of here.
Let me leave.
Yeah.
And then we kind of started from there with like pretty good, rhythm and everything. So this time
we figured it out.
Sarah got to be there. And it was the second time around for me too, which is really positive as well when you've already done it yourself, where like the mechanics of breastfeeding, you've never done it. It's just like, what am I even going for here?
Yeah.
Versus like last time I breastfed Dakota for like 10 months. And so of course, like I knew a lot more to begin with myself as well.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, and I think it's like the classic second baby experience. The first baby, everything is new. Everything is nerve-wracking. Every moment you want. And second baby, it's like, we'll take all the help. Let's set some boundaries. Let's use what we learned last time to sort of set some priorities for this time, which is a benefit. Again, I will say that like every baby's different, and every pregnancy is different. Every birth is different. Every breastfeeding experience is different. Now, if you've had an easy time the first time around, typically breastfeeding is somewhat the same. I would say labors are probably a lot more varied between one and the second, which it definitely was. If you watch both of her birth stories, they were very different. And other than both being induced, which is interesting, but past that, like breastfeeding, once you get the rhythm, I always say it's the hardest thing you ever did until it becomes the easiest thing you ever did. But you sort of have to get over that hump. There was actually a question in Instagram. I'm seeing a lot on Colostrum Collection. So we will talk about that because we actually do have a lot to say about that. So hold tight on that. But with that, it's like you sort of learn from one to the other what to do differently. So we were in the delivery room, and there's just a lot of sounds happening in our house. I apologize. Poor baby. Does she have a nook?
She does.
Okay, good. So we're in the delivery room, and then it was the middle of the night. So you delivered at 2:24. By the time they clean her up and you get her all settled, and then baby goes skin to skin. One of the things I always say is just let them be, because when they're ready, they'll start rooting around, which is like bobbing, and you're like, oh, I think it wants to eat. Otherwise, they're laying there like, and you can try to force them on the boob and you'll just be frustrated. So best thing you can do is just go skin to skin. We were skin to skin for, 45 minutes. And then she started rooting around, and then I helped feed with that first feed. And because you were trying to learn, I remember you and Josh being extremely tired. This is the benefit of a doula, and particularly a doula who has some experience / certifications in breastfeeding. And so you were sort of dozing off thanks to the oxytocin, whatever. And I was like, I'll take care of it. Don't you worry. You rest and recover. We'll get there. And I knew that I was going to be there every feed. Now, for that first feed, babies feed really well in the first couple of hours of life. They're typically very awake, very alert, very vigorous on the breast. And then usually what happens in postpartum is they get really sleepy. So we will talk about sleepy baby hacks, because this to me, I feel like is normal. It's expected, but I don't know that the hospital always sort of sets you up for success. They're like, oh, just wait. And that feels stressful as a parent of like, oh, like I want to feed my baby. Like, what else can we do? And there are things you can do. So we fed. and I helped baby latch. She latched very well. One of the questions that I saw on Instagram when you guys were asking questions, let me find it, was tips for helping baby to get more efficient at drawing more milk during the feed. And so one of the things that I actually teach in my positions for breastfeeding video, please go there. I have how to increase your milk supply. There's lots of breastfeeding videos on my channel that you can check out. But one was checking the latch from the very beginning. And that from somebody who you had the support. So that made it really easy. But one of the things I tell families is to have somebody help you identify what a good latch looks like. And then the goal is every single feed, baby has a good latch. I think a lot of times too, like the baby's sort of like on the nipple or like, oh, they're sucking, yay, like we're good. But actually, if you don't have a deep enough latch and the baby isn't just taking nipple into their mouth, but taking the areola, the dark part around the nipple in, you're not removing as much milk, which isn't going to tell your body to make more milk. And then you end up with sore nipples. You actually have never had nipple issues. Ever. Okay. Which is extremely uncommon. How many of you, let us know in the comments or in the chat if you ever had sore nipples, because this is like a constant thing. Now, my favorite product for this, and I can link everything afterwards, is Silverettes. They're like silver that you put on your nipples to help heal them. Oxygen's really good. Express a little bit of breast milk and rub it on your nipples and let them air dry if you are. But that is a classic indication that you have a poor latch, that baby needs to take more of the breast in. And so what did I do? Every single feed to try to get her latched. Yep. I was checking the latch and looking and assessing and adjusting. And these are little micro adjustments. The biggest thing is you want the lips like totally flipped, obviously without teeth. It looks really weird with teeth, but you want lips flared where they're like this on the breast minus the teeth, because that is really, that shows that it's going to take the most amount of the breast in. A lot of times, remember I was like, she looks like we pulled her off and she had like a mark underneath her lip, and she'd actually pulled her lip in and was like sucking on her bottom lip. And so one of the things you can do is, and I would do this every single feed, come alongside and pull on the skin below the lip, or pull on the lip here, pull on the chin to just flip the lip down. And it can also, you can do it on the upper parts as well. I teach this with an actual baby in my positions for breastfeeding video. So that to me is the biggest tip I have on that. Do you have any feedback for what you did breastfeeding wise this time around, other than me being there every feed?
Yeah, I think that like it's not normal for it to hurt, like for your nipple to like feel sore when it's happening. So like if that is happening, just stop and try it again, because something is off. And I feel like that's the biggest thing at the beginning, especially of like that a lot of times like it does hurt if the latch, and if you can just like, okay, we're gonna like start over, versus I'll push through the pain, but it's like you pushing through the pain is not a good idea because it means something is off. So like sometimes even Sarah would be checking and be like, no, that like hurts. So we're like, okay, like let's try it again. Like you as a person feeling it, like you can follow those intuitions too.
Talk about the letdown sensation.
Oh gosh, yeah. At the beginning, it like hurts. Like it's like, ugh, like I like show your face. I don't know what's my face. It's like
her face is like. You're like, oh my gosh, you're so dramatic.
But I think like it's like painful. Like
you have
the
a strong
letdown. Can feel like that.
What is a letdown? Do you know what a letdown is? You want me to explain it, or you want to explain it?
It's like when the milk actually is released, like releases, and it's like then coming out.
So normally you're not dripping milk all the time, right? Like, right. Well, maybe, but you can, but that's once your milk volume changes. Typically in the beginning, you're not dripping milk all the time. And so there has to be a trigger in your body / brain to say, okay, release. And that's that sucking motion, right? Sometimes it could be a cry. Sometimes it could be sensation. It could be massage. But once you attach the baby and they're actually sucking for a little bit, they initiate that letdown. If you watch your baby super closely, a normal newborn suck pattern is to like really fast. If you're using your pump, it does the same thing intuitively a lot, where it's really fast. That's stimulating the letdown. And then once the letdown happens, you'll see the baby do like pull.
These motions.
I know. So those drawing motions, but that initial like release can feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Definitely for you, it has for both babies.
It can feel really, and so like that's different. That would be like a normal pain, but then it like goes away. It's like, okay, the letdown kind of like passes or whatever, and I'll be like, and then it'll be like, okay, and then the other boob,
Yeah,
and that's like a normal pain. But then I would say like actually nipple pain on, because that's not like a nipple pain. It's like different. It's like a boob pain.
If it feels like centralized to your nipple.
Yeah. So yeah, and I would say, for instance, we like joke all the time of like my boobs feeling like so big and huge and like these huge jugs.
Very enormous.
And
huge
so
jugs.
like if that's you, because your boobs get way bigger, like generally.
You had little itty bitty ones.
Like it's hard yourself to like see, depending on whichever position, to like see that the lips are right and to see those things. And so for instance, like if she's like this, like her bottom lip is completely below my boob, and like I can't see that. And so like that's what's really helpful about, even if it like it doesn't have to be like, obviously I'm super privileged to have Sarah, but like
privileged.
It can be a partner, it can be like your mom or whoever, and that like, hey, can you help me check the latch? Because like especially the angles and stuff, like it's hard to see yourself sometimes. And like once, from my experience, like once the latch is good and like that consistency, then you don't really need to like, it becomes, you don't need to check it every time. So then like if you have that support of somebody who's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna like help make sure the lips are good, and like you're already just thinking about so many things and so tired, and so like to just have someone else looking and like helping you figure that out. So yeah. Yeah, something else that was different, like last time, just like in the postpartum unit, was my like pain meds the last time wasn't on like a schedule.
So in the hospital, they can order your postpartum pain medications, which is literally usually just Motrin. So ibuprofen, that's it, but that's enough. And I always suggest taking it around the clock. So if you're anticipating your postpartum, that plan on taking it and a lot of times they'll alternate between Tylenol and Motrin. Every 3-ish hours was her regimen. I've seen other people do other things, but in general, it's about every 3 hours so that you always have something on board. If they order it around the clock, as a nurse, it's scheduled that you have to give it within the hour, right? You have an hour window both sides. So you're giving it around the same time. But if it's ordered PRN or as needed, you actually have to request your pain medications. And so this is something to ask. I actually asked the moment we got in the room, I was like, how are her pain meds scheduled? Are they PRN, meaning as needed, or are they around the clock? She said, oh no, they're around the clock. So we made a comment to the nurses that like, okay, we really want them around the clock because the first time around, they must not have been ordered like that. And so I would
wake up and be in like a lot of pain and then look on the schedule, because at least at my hospital, they were writing when I last had pain on the board. And I would look and be like, the last time I had pain meds was like a while ago, longer than like it probably like longer than it needed to be. And like, I would be in a lot of pain versus this way. It was like, oh, okay. Like, it's better to stay out of the pain, where it's just like, yeah, they like gave me my next pain med, and like I could kind of feel it wearing off a little bit, but yeah. And then
that's great.
Sarah also brought a heating pad plugged in electric to the hospital, and that was awesome because last time I didn't have that. And because when you're breastfeeding with like the cramping and stuff after, I don't know, would that be the same with a C-section as well? Okay.
Yeah, it would.
That when you're breastfeeding, like the cramping kind of ramps up.
And the more babies you have, the worse your postpartum cramps are. The reason for that is when you breastfeed, it releases oxytocin from your brain, which is a bonding hormone. It's a love hormone. It's also your contraction hormone. For labor, we love that. Also for postpartum, we love that because that helps your uterus clamp down and prevent you from bleeding too much in the postpartum period. You will bleed. You can talk about that if you feel comfortable. But you can expect to bleed some, but we don't want you bleeding too much. That is a postpartum risk. And so that breastfeeding is actually really good natural stimulus for your bleeding to slow down. Breastfeeding helps your uterus go back to pre-pregnant size a lot faster. It actually helps it go back to pre-pregnant size. They say that with formula-fed babies, the uterus doesn't totally go back to pre-pregnant size, which really doesn't matter. That's just a fun fact of the day. And so with that oxytocin release, those cramps, it is actually extremely normal to have pretty intense postpartum cramping during breastfeeding.
Yeah. So that's why if you are around the clock meds, that's what I would recommend, because you're breastfeeding kind of whenever. And so then if it's like you're trying to anticipate, like, oh, I need to take meds before breastfeed, like, well, okay. So it's to just have them in your system. And then the heating pad was also super helpful of just like, if you've had bad period cramps, you know that like that's, just super helpful. So that was great. So I felt like my pain management was better this time than last time, which felt, just obviously better. And then, breastfeeding, we wake up the baby every 3 hours.
So this is where we had strategized. This is not necessarily the recommendation for all babies all the time, but because first of all, with the formula shortage, if you're watching this later, there was a formula shortage in the United States. So really hard to get formula. So that was a concern. The other concern was the jaundice that we had last time. Jaundice is extremely normal. I have 2 videos on jaundice on my channel. You can check out from Dakota. You'll see Dakota when he was a baby in those ones where we talked about the Billy lights. It was way too much drama. And so for both her and her husband, that was a huge priority. They were like, we have to avoid the jaundice. Now, how you avoid jaundice best you can is you have to feed. And so the goal is to stimulate their digestive system. So they're pooping and getting their digestive system all like greased up and working. And so we decided to go on a pretty strict regimen. The goal is 8 to 12 feeds in a day, which we were feeding 12 times a day. And that's because in the beginning, your milk supply is low, like drops. And one of my favorite new recommendations that I loved was the Hakka Colostrum Collectors. I had bought for you just to check out and see. I don't have them here, but I could do like a reel or another video of like the things that I loved from this time around. And with that, they are like these little silicone collector things. I've done it with spoons and medicine cups and little bottles or caps. I've done a lot of things. I think a spoon up until now has been the easiest, but the colostrum collectors from Hakka were extremely helpful. Now we only use them for like a week. So also like as far as investment goes, if you're like, they feel like a little bit of a crunch for me, just use a like plastic spoon or a metal spoon even, you could. And then a syringe. So we collected colostrum ahead of time, and then we did set a timer. So I think during the night, we set every 3 hours, during the day, every 2 hours feeding. And then here's the deal. In the postpartum period, it is so normal, especially during the first 24 hours, for baby to be super sleepy. Please let me know in the chat or in the comment box down below, did you experience a super sleepy baby? Because my theory is that like 80% of you experience, well, I would almost say 100 now that I think about it, but a very high percentage of you would have had a sleepy baby where you were like, this kid will not eat. Like, this is so annoying. And you could spend your entire frustration, energy, awake time trying to feed them at the breast when they're like, and that's really discouraging when you're first getting started. And you
don't have the energy because you just gave birth.
Right. And so that's where like what ended up happening was I milked her for like a week. And especially during the first 24 hours, you slept through multiple feeds. I have really funny photos of you, like that's the sister in me. I'm like, look at her face, just totally passed out, where I'm either latching baby and letting baby eat or trying for 5-10 minutes max. By 10 minutes, my back is killing me as I'm trying to help her. And then we're done. And so I think I probably did 2 or 3 feeds, probably 2, where I manually expressed. I have a manual expression video on my channel. Please go check that out. That is a skill that is so important, especially during the first few days, because I've seen a lot of questions about milk supply. And the biggest thing with milk supply is setting realistic expectations and then stimulation on the breast. You gotta remove milk. And if baby's not getting a good latch, that contributes to not moving enough milk, and that can contribute to a low supply. So what we did was we'd try. If she wasn't down, then Hannah would lay there and sleep, and I'd wrap her up and put her to the side, and I would manually express, literally milking her into the little colostrum collector, and then I would feed that either with the dropper of the Hakka or with a syringe. So a lot of you, if you've bought your baby Tylenol, your baby Motrin, which you should have both of those at home in your medicine cabinet, I talk about that in my infant safety and CPR class, but grab a syringe out of there. When you're in the hospital, ask them for a 1 and a 3 milliliter syringe to take home with you, whether you're doing this. I did this at home for a few feeds when she was super sleepy, because you don't have to give a bottle. And when you're giving like 1 milliliter of milk, you're going to lose it on the sides of the bottle. Like there's not enough to put in a bottle at that point. And that is a normal expectation for how much milk you have. So what I'd do is I'd manually express until, and I'd get like a little bit of a flow, and it felt like it was coming. Now where they're like, she's just a cow. But before it was like, I'd get probably 3 milliliters from each boob. Maybe no, sometimes it was from both boobs in the first 24 hours per feed, right?
Yeah, it was like from both would be 3.
3 milliliters. Okay. That is nothing. All right. But also very normal. We're like, great. Her tummy is that small. So you feed to fill. You don't overfeed a baby with breast milk when you're increasing your supply. And now she can take a lot more, but it slowly expands the stomach of your baby. So manually express, feed either with a syringe or with the little Hakka dripper thing. I find a syringe easier than the Hakka dripper thing, but that's just me. I've done this a lot.
Well, and then the other thing I tried the first time, because I was like, I don't know, it's just like it made sense to me. They were like, do you want to pump? And like they asked me if I wanted to pump, like a big pump, set it all up, you know? And I was like, sure. And so then like I pumped and I got some out, but it was like what Sarah said of like, it was drops. And so then it's just like, it's through the thing, it's down on the bottle. Like, it's just like so much of it, it's getting lost in the whole process versus, so like this time I was like, I'm not putting my pumping bra in. Like, I'm not going to like do that. Cause it's like, it's so much better to manually express. Cause you would think like, it's easy. I just like put on the pump but it's like not actually.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't work well in the beginning, obviously, like later when your milk is, you know, what did they call it? Milk is in, but like
milk volume increases. Look at you learning so much of my lingo. So cute. Yeah. And that tip is something that I wish more people in the hospital sort of encouraged, because it just makes it so much easier. And you get a few drops, 1 milliliter. I remember with Dakota, we would feed like 0.3 milliliters. And that's nothing, but it was something. And that kind of helps stimulate the digestive system. And so with that, we were waking up every 3 hours at night, we meaning me, and helping Riley get on the breast. And then if she didn't, I'd manually express. My hands by the end, like my forearms and my fingers, I was like, oh my gosh, because it is a lot of work.
But would
like
you
sort
say
of
that
sore.
like it's part of the postpartum nurse's job to like help you with these things, or would that be the lactation consultant?
Great question. I would say that is the postpartum nurse's job. Now, is it realistic that your postpartum nurse can be with you for every single feed when they have 4 patients, 8 technically with the babies? Probably not, to be honest. So this is where like you being here, you learning to manually express, you helping your partners understand how to help you, whether that's you squeezing and them catching the little drops, helping you with that, them learning how to syringe feed. Like your nurses can teach you this stuff and kind of get you going. But I wish I felt like I could tell you to be fully dependent on your nurses. I just don't think it's totally realistic given their workload for them to help with every single feed. Now, a lactation consultant is a specialist. You a lot of times have to ask for them. We passed when we were in the hospital. It was like, well, you have me. So like you have 24/7 lactation help, and save it for somebody who needs it. But those are going to be your people that come in to actually assess the latch, give you actual tips, give you resources, help with problems that you're already facing. Like say your baby's in the NICU, or you already have sore nipples, or you're dealing with a supply issue, or it looks like baby has a tongue tie. I know there was a couple of questions on that. If you have a tie, this is so fast because that's a whole nother video. And I do have a couple of those. You can just search ties on my channel, but just get it fixed. Get it revised, have them. It's a little snip, snip, no big deal, little laser, zoop, you're done. It's like a non-issue because ties can actually affect speech later in life. They can affect your breastfeeding, your milk supply, all of that. It can be like one of those sneaky issues. And so if you're having any issues, just have your baby evaluated for a tie. And it's not just a tongue tie. There's mouth ties. There's other ties in the mouth to restrict the mouth. That's all I'll probably say on
I would
that.
say, but I felt bad like the first time, like asking. And so it's like, if you don't feel comfortable, like, yeah, I don't think that it's like realistic either to have them be with you at every feed, but I also think like they're there for you, and like
that's their job.
Their job is to help you. And so like if you feel alone, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel like I don't have any clue what I'm doing, I'm trying to follow, Sarah's hand expression YouTube video and it's not working, and like here I am lost and like stressed, that like, call the nurse button, do that and say, I'm feeling this way. Can you please help me breastfeed, or send someone in here ASAP to help me because I need help? And like to just say that versus like to feel like a burden, because I think like you don't know, is it their job? Is it not their job?
It is their job. Yes. Now they may not be able to milk you every time, but especially to get you going and teach you how. You watch the manual expression video. It's different based on your breast and how it actually feels. Have her show you or them show you, and then you're usually set. Have your partner learn as well to help you. So that was one of the biggest tips, but we were on top of it. Like I felt stressed for you guys that I was like, we're not going to deal with the jaundice thing. We just got to feed this baby, constantly. And they can kind of sleep through the little syringe feed. If you're feeding by syringe, I teach this in my Infant Safety and CPR class, but you just kind of put the syringe back here and then just little squirts, and they'll like,
and it's like a lot less effort that they need to put in. She can basically be sleeping. And that was another thing, is like I would stay there forever, like trying with Dakota, like, come on, do it. And it was just like, I don't know, like I think I didn't pay that much attention with the things Sarah told me before getting in for I feel like the labor things I paid a lot of attention and didn't pay attention to other things. And so like I'm just there forever, like, what do I want to do?
Well, and I didn't know this was going on. Like at one point,
I think it's just like you're just so like tired. You don't even like remember like that. Oh, I guess I could text Sarah and ask what she thinks. Like, literally, I'm just there, like,
right.
Like, he won't eat. I don't know what to do.
Right.
And like, it's so hard to think. It's so hard. Like, and so the more that you could think about this beforehand,
be
and
proactive.
Even, like I said, I know like you have like a birth preferences worksheet or whatever, but it's like even to think through and like write down some stuff about postpartum, because you're not going to remember when you get there, and like have your partner remember that he needs to take out the little note card and like ask, hey, I need pain meds around the clock. I need whatever. What
I said in our last postpartum live that I would make them a cheat. And I never did that. I just remembered. I'm so sorry. Maybe I will now. I'm not going to promise that because clearly like it slipped. But I should make you a cheat for postpartum so you know what to ask for.
So it's like what to ask and like to say like, hey, I would like help with the first, feed or the first few feeds, and like is that like, are you able to help me? And just like having that conversation and like just bringing up certain things, like having and then what we did this time, oh my gosh, this was revolutionary. And I think Sarah mentioned last time, and then I was like, I did, and didn't say anything. That's the thing, is like you get there and it's like you need something to like, you either have written it down or you're just gonna be like, I'm just so dead from giving birth and like I'm just so done. And
I think the first time around you didn't totally understand what a lot of this meant until you're in the moment, because I sent you a text after the first, and I was like a list of all these things and sort of like asking about visitors, but you don't get it until you're like, oh, that's what she means by that.
So like what we did was we asked for them to like limit the interruptions of people coming in. And so are you reading a comment?
Yeah, I'm reading a comment. So sweet. Hi, Hannah. Sarah, we met on a video call. We did a one-on-one, which I do offer, and she took my VBAC class. She got her VBAC and feels amazing. Yay! We're so proud of you. That's amazing. How fun. Cool. All right. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, so we asked them to limit the interruptions of like people coming in and to like come in together when everyone needed to do stuff, if possible.
The key word here is cluster your care.
Oh yeah, that's what they kept saying.
Yeah.
And so we actually had like a do not they said we put the do not disturb on the door, like at a hotel, like when you put do not disturb on the door. And then they kept asking me because I had that on there, and like every nurse then would be like, oh, they want that. Like she would ask me, hey, I need to do this, or like, hey, we're gonna shift change. Would you like me to do that in here? Would you like me to do that in the hallway? It's going to be at this time or whatever. And so then I could choose like, oh yeah, like we'll be feeding around that time anyway, come on in. Or like, yeah, can you just do it in the hallway? I don't care. And like, so then they're aware of trying to reduce interruptions, because the first time around when they don't do that, everything can kind of get off of schedule of like, they need to check the baby for this. Then they're coming in to check your uterus here. And then they're giving you your pain meds. And then they're doing this. And then your doctor's coming in. And then and like all the different things. And so it can feel like people are coming in all the time, or like even cleaning. There was something about like
emptying the trash.
Yeah. Like people come in just to like, clean.
Can I restock the cabinets?
Yeah. And so instead of someone coming in where I'm like, actually sleeping and then being woken up because someone's in there cleaning my trash can out and being like, why are you doing that right now?
Yeah.
Like it felt like we could just like sleep when the baby slept and like not be constantly interrupted, which was amazing of just not feeling so like, oh my gosh, every time I get to sleep, then someone wakes me up again. And I was so annoyed by it and didn't even know that this was a thing. So I
would say also take advantage of the rest that you can get in the hospital, because a lot of times it's like, I see families that are really, rightfully so, excited about their baby. They're wanting to learn all the things. They're worried about their baby and like, I need to watch my baby at all times, or are we feeding enough, or are we this and that? But like, if baby is down, put them in the bassinet and sleep while you can. We lowered the curtains, and like, I feel like that's what we did for 24 hours. Like because you're recovering from the birth as well. And we're up every 2 to 3 hours to feed the baby. So it was like baby would be done, swaddle in the bassinet, and all of us asleep for like an hour and a half. When you're clustering your care that way, they would come in, give pain meds. We'd look at the clock and be like, let's get her up to feed. Here's my tips for waking up a baby, because you can. Rest in the hospital. None of that happened. I know. And so this is where we want to help set you up for that by asking for the clustering of your care. I've become the pro baby waker upper. So if baby is nice and cozy, we're still doing skin to skin when you feed. To this day, we're almost a month old, which is awesome for your milk supply, awesome for bonding and oxytocin
obviously
release.
Not like out when it's out and about or something.
Yeah,
I'm not like, take off all my clothes, get her naked.
Everybody's naked in public. No. But when we're at home and you're downstairs, like we'll fully take off all of Riley's clothes to go and be able to feel some skin to skin. So we did that for sure in the hospital. She didn't put on any clothes until we went home, pretty much, which is pretty normal. But unwrapping, kind of picking up, sitting up, talk, cold on the cheeks, moving around, little burping. That's how I a lot of times wake her up in between, where she'll be like, like annoying. Diaper changes. We typically would, because one of the things, especially early on, she would fall asleep after the first boob, which will answer the 2 boob questions that I have. I have so many 2 boob questions in my Instagram list. But she would eat off the first, she'd wake up hungry and like rigorously suck, and then sort of fill up a little bit and like fall asleep. And so that was when we'd burp, do a full diaper change, that would wake her up, and then feed on the other boob. And that typically helped. One of the questions that came in a bunch was about feeding on both boobs. Do you need to feed always on both boobs? Can you feed and pump? Do you have any comments on what you did on that for using both boobs or not?
I feel like last time I was a lot more strict about like I have to feed on both boobs every time because I think I was like I have to do this textbook and like I was like always putting like the
Classic
app
first
on
baby, huh?
and like clicking it and then having him feed exactly this many minutes on each side and having him be completely like classic first baby. I was on like the app of like he's a watermelon. Oh wait, I don't think he'd ever be watermelon.
That's a
He's
watermelon's a
kiwi.
big one. A kiwi.
And this time around it's like, oh, like it's been a lot more lax. And I feel like as long as I remember what happened the last feed, that I don't always do both boobs on each feed. Like sometimes it'll be just this boob, and then the next feed I'll just do this boob. And then sometimes I do both in the same feed. And I feel like it's kind of like intuition and then just remembering because you don't want it to be like you're always starting on the same side or you're only feeding one side and then the next feed you're just doing that side again. It's like trying to make it even, but I know for me it's worked because she will just like get going and then she'll fall asleep and she'll just like it was now even like sometimes I just like let her just go as long as she wants because she's still eating for like a really long time on one. And then I'm just like next time I'm just going to do all on the other one and I don't deal with the whole like wicking and switching and all that stuff. So that's what I have to say about it.
So I will comment. Yeah, no, I think it's helpful to hear your experience. I will just comment from like a grander scale that not everybody can do that and have sufficient milk supply. Okay. So Hannah, you're a cow and you make enormous amounts of milk. We also Hakka'd. We're not really Hakkaing right now. Are you?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So if you don't know what a Hakka is, you need to add the Hakka to your registry, get yourself a Hakka. They're like $14. They're the best investment, especially in the beginning, because what you do is it's a mild suction on the one boob that you're not feeding on. So when she's she's feeding on one, you put the Hakka on the other. And Hannah, I froze probably 15 bags of milk that are at least 2 ounces a bag in the first week, because of just the Hakka, no breast pump. And that to me, the Hakka doesn't risk oversupply. When you're pumping and feeding, that's not normally my recommendation unless you're dealing with a low supply. If you have adequate supply, which how do you know? One is your baby is gaining weight, your baby has enough diapers, and you're not having to feed like 25 times a day. You should be feeding 8 to 12 times a day and baby gaining weight. You may or may not see some extra on the Hakka. Sometimes you just need more pressure, but I wouldn't expect to fill the Hakka. Have like a little bit in the bottom, little bit extra. Add that together, put it in the fridge, save it for later, throw it in the freezer if you don't want to use it now. Or in the first few days, we were absolutely feeding her the rest of the Hakka milk for every feed until your milk volume changed, which happened about day 3. So because we were trying to stimulate the digestive system to help her poop out any of that extra bilirubin to avoid jaundice, which is pretty typical. So now, in order to remember, one of the tricks is actually a hair tie. So you can decide if you put the hair tie on the boob you last fed on or on the boob that you need to feed on next. Just decide one or the other. So if it's on my left hand, I would say, okay, next feed, I'm going to start on the left boob. And then after I feed on this one, I'm going to start on the right boob. So that's one of my tips too for breastfeeding, that you start on opposite boobs, especially once you get going. Now, at some point, your breastfeeding a lot of times transitions from that, like, this is really hard and terrible, to like, whoa, really easy. And she latches and you whip it out and you're like on your phone and like,
like
no big deal.
Situate it and have both hands free.
Yeah, exactly. And so eventually you'll get there. But in the meantime, as there's that transitionary period for you, I think it was probably like a couple weeks. My usual is expect about 3 to 4 weeks for you to get the hang of it. But then you say, I'm starting on my right boob this time. And then next time I'm going to start on my left boob with your hair tie. Now, the other way to know is by using an app. So the app that we use is Nara Baby. It looks like this. It is so simple. It is free. It's my favorite. I know there's a lot of apps out there, but I love this app. And what we did this time around, because I was there is a feeds part, there's a pump part, there's diapers in here, and then there's sleep, growth, and health, where you can log medications. And I used all of them for her. So I'm a nurse. So like it's natural for me to sort of be writing things down and paying attention. I have birth notes from all my clients, including hers. But from literally when baby was born, I put in the weight and height. So we have that documented. From the first diaper, I put it in the app. At the time, was it pee or poop or both? From the time that she fed, you can start on each boob and it'll add it up and tell you when the last time you fed was. So easy. Then the other thing is medications. We actually did with her Motrin and Tylenol flip off because you just lose your brain. You don't know what day it is. You don't know what time it is.
When you last took meds.
No. And so you can look at the app and go, oh, it's been 3 hours. It's time for my Tylenol. Set an alarm, stuff like that. The other thing, you want to talk about sleep? Because you did that one.
Yeah. So I log my own sleep in the sleep one. So like you can either start on here, you can either start timers. So like when you breastfeed, you could just start the timer and then stop the timer, or you can just like log it manually. Like if you didn't do it in the moment and be like, oh, I started around this time, just to like have it in there. But yeah, for sleep, I put in like I slept, and obviously you don't know exactly when you fell asleep, but like I slept from about this time to this time in between, so that I can add it up and be like, okay, so far I have 6 hours of sleep today, or hey, I actually got 8 hours of sleep in between these different times, because you can feel like, why am I so tired? Oh, because I've only slept 5 hours total, and so it's like a way, because I feel like the beginning of the last time I felt like I don't know even like how much sleep I'm getting, and I just know I'm super exhausted. So it's helpful in that way for me. And same with my meds, because we've never done any meds in there for her. But it's like when you like expect it, and like the other difference, like in the hospital, at least for us, they gave us like a booklet that you could like write it down or whatever. But like I tried that last time in the hospital. It was like so hard, versus this time it was like just starting the app from the very beginning is so nice, because then it's in there. And like even now it's like I'm not like, it just says 0 minutes, 0 minutes, 0 minutes, because I'm not actually like putting the timer on and timing how long it is, because I'm not just at a different place with that, where I don't feel like I need to track how many exact minutes did you feed. But I'm like starting it and it says 0 minutes, but it has the exact time that she started feeding, so that, and especially like I'm not always doing that throughout the day if it got busy and whatever. And it's just like throughout the day, I'm like, man, whatever. In a lot of ways.
You always do this too. Yeah. Like you can feel if your,
or like sometimes your boob kind of like starts to hurt, like, ow. And you're like, oh, I need to feed her soon. So is this one.
It is.
But yeah, so I do that at least through the night still, because it's like you're so delirious. And so then when you wake up, or if your partner's helping, like they can look on the app, because you can give permission to whoever. Sarah has access, my parents have access, like, and so then when someone's helping with your baby, they can be like, well, would she be hungry right now, when you're trying to figure out when why she's crying or whatever. And you can go in and be like, oh yeah, it's been 3 hours. Maybe I'm taking a nap or I'm sleeping, and like someone else is taking care of the baby. We'll go wake up Hannah, versus, oh no, like she fed an hour ago. That's not what's wrong, most likely.
Totally.
So it's helpful, especially like if other people are helping you out, even your partner.
Let's talk about your vagina.
Okay.
Let's talk about your vagina recovery. Someone was asking what you did. You have this is a systems girl, though. Let me tell you, this is like the most regimented, organized person probably in my life, maybe.
Really?
Yeah. You are Miss Regimen. Like, and it has to have a system. So, and I like systems too, but
also this time a lot more like intuition than like last time with things of like, I've done it before. So I feel a lot more like confident, I think, of like, if I don't need like this, like, then it's like, okay. And then you just go by intuition. Like either or so strict, or it's like intuition is fine. Yeah. But
so what'd you do to heal your vagina? And how's your vagina these days?
Life of its own. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so at the hospital they give you a bunch of stuff, like a little spray bottle to spray water on your vagina after at the very beginning while you pee, which is really helpful, or else it can really sting if you have a tear. I did have a tear. I guess I don't know if we mentioned that on the other movie.
I think we did.
The other video. So I had a 2nd-degree tear. So at the very beginning, it's really helpful to spray water while you're peeing, or else it can really sting and like kind of hurt. But if you're spraying it while you're peeing, it's like diluting the pee. And then continue to spray like now I'm not like, if I end up going pee in a different bathroom, I'm not spraying, but like I am spraying every time I go in like the bathroom by my room and stuff.
Just like kind of just nice to stay clean anyway.
Like it's, yeah. I feel like last time I did it till my 6-week appointment, just because it's like, I wanted to know that like my doctor has like seen it down there and been like, you're good to go with everything.
I looked already and it looks great.
But yeah, so spraying that and like spraying it after, just kind of like clean it off. And then, yeah, so in the hospital, they give you these little like circle things. It's like witch hazel.
Tux is what they're called, Tux Pads. They're technically for hemorrhoids. You can use them for hemorrhoids as well.
Yeah, they like if you were to buy them, because I bought extra ones on Amazon, it says like hemorrhoid pads. But yeah, so like putting that on like after you're done, like after, so like spray, pat down, not like wipe, but like pat. And then at the beginning they give you this like cream stuff. What is that for? Numbing?
Yeah, it's like a numbing cream.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's
like,
numbing creams, there's numbing sprays, like a dermaplast. It just depends. You can ask for any kind of whatever numbing they normally give.
Yeah. So all these things were like in the bathroom at the beginning, and like I did it was at the same hospital, so it was like the same stuff as last time. But yeah, I always put like the Tux thing and then put the cream on it, and then like, and then they'll do this for the first time with you, and if you don't know, and then you stick that like on kind of where the tear is, and you keep it on you, like. And then pads. So like at the beginning, they give you this humongo pads that are like diapers. Like huge.
Humongo.
Like, maybe not huge. That bad. But
no, they're like so that big.
They're like diapers.
Yeah.
And then you have like these disposable underwear, which the first time I like didn't realize they were super disposable.
She was using them over and over again.
Like I go
and washing them, machine. Which I guess, did they keep up? Did they fall apart?
I still had 2 that I kept.
Funny. They're technically disposable, but I suppose like if you really love them, wash them and reuse them.
But yeah, so you'll have those other underwear, which is nice because at the beginning you bleed a lot. So it's nice that you're not like staining or bleeding on your normal underwear. You can just throw those away and not worry. And then after however long you transition to like these ones that are like not as humongo, like at the hospital, or I suppose when you got home. I transitioned at the hospital because I wasn't bleeding like crazy or anything. So yeah, and then changing out your pad and maybe changing out your underwear if it got bloody. And yeah, so like right now all I'm doing is like the spray bottle, and I'm still have pads because I don't have like blood, but there's still like some discharge at times, so I don't want to like not have a pad when that happens.
Well, and your bleeding typically starts dark red and then moves to more of like a pink color and then turns to more of like a yellowish color. So that transition is normal in the postpartum period for the first at least like 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. So like right now, yeah, it'd be like to me, it's like, it doesn't seem like it's blood. Like I didn't even know that. Like I thought it was just like yellow discharge.
Yeah, no, it's not blood. The yellow isn't blood. No, it's
like
what's called lochia. So it's your postpartum discharge.
Yeah. So it's nice to like, I like buying the like thin, even though they're like absorbent, the like thin pads because you're wearing them all the time. So it's like annoying to feel like you're wearing huge pads all the time. But yeah, so that's what I did.
Then you also did your Sitz Baths.
Oh yeah, money is last time. With a 2-year-old in life. But yeah, so like baths with Epsom salts. So I did that in the hospital. We provided the salts there, and then some when I got home, and just soaking in the Sitz Baths, the Epsom salts.
I will link afterwards. I'm gonna have to go back and put in the description all of the little links and stuff for things. But there is I think it's called Soothe company. Where they actually have a Sitz Bath that goes on the toilet. So you lift up the toilet seat, you set it down, and then you connect it to fill it. So you just like sit on the toilet rather than getting down into a bathtub. Especially if you don't have a bathtub,
or if you're alone.
Or if you're alone. Yeah. Totally. So Sitz Baths are one of the biggest, best things you can do for postpartum recovery. It's warm water with some Epsom salts. You don't want a ton of fragrance. Some people will do like essential oils or herbs or something like the yoni steams or whatever. That's different than a Sitz Bath. But sort of those Epsom salts, the mineral water baths on your vagina help heal your vagina. They're really soothing. They can help with swelling. They can also help with hemorrhoids. If you have any hemorrhoids.
And the ice. I forgot about the ice.
Oh yeah, we did some serious icing.
Serious icing. So at the hospital, there's these super fun, fancy ice things that you crack
which
open.
I will link down below. Frida Mom has a lot of really amazing products that you can
keep
get.
buying those.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
we didn't. I was being the nurse.
At the hospital,
used to not.
And like it like has a sticky thing. You stick it in there, and then you'd have the like Tux thing like on top of that on your vagina. But it's
a whole wad.
It's
in your
huge,
vagina.
but it feels so good. And like you're swollen down there if you had a vaginal birth. Are you swollen down there if you had a C-section?
Not usually, not unless you pushed.
Okay. And it feels good, first of all. So it's funny because a lot of times you have like that underneath and then the heating pad. You're like, what's going on? But
There's a whole lot of sensation.
But yeah, and super helpful. And then I ran out of those and stopped that. And then I did feel like, I think it was kind of like a swelling type pain, because obviously like ice helps to reduce swelling or keep swelling at bay. And so I like hadn't iced because I ran out of those other ones. I hadn't thought of it. And then like I did feel like, like kind of like a pain of like it just being like swollen, throbby, hot. And like it was just like, this is really uncomfortable. And so then I was like, this is happening. And it was like, oh, well, you need to put ice in it. And then I was like, well, I don't have any more ice things. So then Sarah made these fancy ice things with
super fancy
with gloves.
So if you have any, especially with COVID, like most people have just like your normal gloves. So like your nitrile, the hospital gloves. So what I did was fill them with ice. So you like shove them down the fingers. And what I like about this, we do this in the hospital. Sometimes you do need to wrap them. A lot. We use like 4x4s, or you could also fill a diaper, but I always, because I'm a nurse, I'm so used to doing the glove trick. And diapers are expensive. So it feels like it's a little more cost effective to use a glove, but fill the glove with ice, shove the like ice cubes down the fingers of the glove, fill it up, twist it around, tie it in a knot, and then the little fingers you can push wherever you want to put pressure wherever. You can shove one up your butt crack for a hemorrhoid. Whole lot of options.
Wow.
The icy glove. Otherwise, you can just pull a diaper open and then fill it with ice, close it off, and shove that in as a pad as well.
Which would be like, we didn't do that. So like the benefit of that is like it is kind of like all contained but it's more expensive. But this one, it was like you definitely need to put something in between. So like what worked best for me was like thinner dishcloth.
Yeah, we just tore up like a clean
rag.
Mm-hmm.
A clean rag, like, but on the thinner side so you can still feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But then, because then also like you kind of want to be able to like make sure, because there's like pressure at certain points, so you want to be able to like have enough fabric or something that you can like put extra, because like if there's pressure and then it's really cold, it can be like, ow, like if you just put ice right on your skin, it can feel like that. So yeah, that was
the other thing
helpful.
You can do is Padsicles. I have a video on that, on making Padsicles. That's a little bit of high maintenance. That's like a first baby thing, like second babies.
Or if you made them like, before you had your kid, maybe.
Totally. And put them, like you just spoon the stuff on your pads and then fold them up, freeze them, and then on your vagina. That can feel really good. Or the crackable ones. Frida Mom has really amazing crackable ones. Those are really easy. They have awesome products. Clogged milk ducts. The other thing we haven't talked about is you got some ducks in there, girlfriend.
Yes. Also, if you've never seen a picture of milk ducts, y'all should just like Google it, because the first time around it made me cry, like looking at it. It was so cool. I was like, look at my body, how amazing.
You did cry.
But it is helpful. Like if you look up a picture of milk ducts, that'll be really helpful.
I can post one,
because you have like stuff about it. But yeah, so like I get clogged milk ducts, so like on the sides here, as everyone looks at moves. And so it just like starts to get hard and like can be painful.
Like a
or like
big
the
bump.
starting of like, obviously it wasn't, so like, or for me, it wasn't like, it didn't develop into like huge problems, but the biggest thing is like last time, I feel like that was just kind of like starting, but I wasn't aware really. And then like, oh, I guess, oh, these are here. That's weird. And then like they'd already kind of been like developing a little bit. And so then it was like, okay, I gotta massage, I gotta do all this stuff versus like being aware right away. Like you want to be like feeling your boobs.
Feel your boobs.
All the time, like all around and like back here too, like just all around. And like if you start to feel little tiny, like hard or like
You'll
big,
feel a bump. Like
big
it feels
bumps.
like a marble to like a golf ball.
Yeah.
In
And like
your
sometimes
boobs.
they're really tiny, but really hard. And then sometimes they're like big and like whatever. And so sometimes it hurts when you push on it. And sometimes they don't hurt, but they're still like shouldn't, you know, stay there forever. So the idea is like you can massage them out. Like we'll put like some oil or like lotion and like massage them out. Like I don't like to do it to the baby's mouth. Well, especially at the very beginning, because sometimes they're like, because it like makes it go faster. But especially if you have the Haka on the other side, you can do it in the Haka, or you could just do it in the bathtub. I did that. But yeah, and then the best thing that I found is the sunflower
lecithin. Yeah, I'll link it down below too. I got some linking to do on this video, but you can just add everything to cart. It'll all be Amazon links probably, so you can find it.
So I like totally forgot until like they started forming, and then I was like, I need to get this stuff now, and we literally like paid extra to like try to get it that day, and then literally Amazon messed up. But whatever. I think it was so funny, but
Target has it
right when you start to like feel that maybe there's some bumps or whatever, because this won't happen until a few days where like usually your milk volume is like increasing, and then it's like can happen right then because it's like your boobs are trying to adjust and like do all the things. And so I would say like right when you start feeling the bumps, like start taking it, because I take it all through breastfeeding and I've like never had problems with actual like mastitis or like whatever. And I think partly it's that of like you just stay ahead of it, of like taking that, and then also like being really intentional, massage it before it becomes like a problem.
I see a question from Daisy here. She says, should I use the Haka for intense engorgement? She is day 5 postpartum. Congratulations on your baby. Absolutely, yes. For any kind of engorgement, and that's when your milk volume changes and your boobs fill, and now all of a sudden you have more milk, it can feel really uncomfortable. The goal is we want to relieve the pressure from your boobs so it doesn't just sit there. That can become complicated. And so while baby's feeding on one, put the Haka on the other, do the little rub on any firm areas, any areas that are uncomfortable. You're pushing towards the breast. You can put some heat. I have so many products I should show you. This is probably a YouTube video. I need to collect some stuff and take it back with me so we can talk about all the new things. Not really new, but like all the things that I'm like, these are your postpartum essentials. Because one of the things we tried was not only massage, but there's vibration on your breast, and Freedom Mom has a breast massager vibrator thing that's basically just a vibrator that you put on your boob, and it like zzz to try to loosen things up. So absolutely Haka, we started once you got home.
Yeah.
Pretty soon after.
Really helpful, especially when everything is coming in, because it's like you can really get a better release because you have like double on both sides, like not double, but like just
stimulation to help remove
milk, and then to like have more milk coming in. And then if you have like a little bit too much or whatever, like can stop. Like now I've like stopped hucking because I feel like it's pretty well regulated with her. But you could always I could always start doing that again. I think it's just,
and it would slowly increase your milk supply.
Yeah, which is nice. Yeah, and I think sometimes it just feels like to get the Haka out and like a whole nother step, especially if you're alone and then you have to deal with the milk and that. But like at the beginning, I think it's definitely like worth it of like getting that all really stimulated.
Yeah. I'm seeing some really good questions in here that I'm actually going to ask. G. Valentin says, hi, I'm due with my second early next year. I breastfed my first. Should I expect my milk to come in while pregnant this time? So the answer to that is actually yes and no. yes, you have milk while you're pregnant. One of the huge misconceptions that I hear all the time is like, I don't have milk. I hear nurses tell patients, well, you don't have milk till your milk comes in. And that's why, you know this very well, I always say, wait until your milk volume changes, because you have milk from week 14 to 17 of your pregnancy. So the answer to that is yes. But just because you breastfed the first does not mean that you'll be lactating prior. Now, a little bit higher chance to be able to collect some colostrum. You experienced this. We tried pumping to try to like stimulate labor. She got, I think it was probably 5 or 6 milliliters out. And then you kept pumping and nothing came out, like dry as a whistle. Dry as a desert. And so, but the thing is that until you birth your placenta, that is the trigger for your body to release the milk that's there and then stimulate and move into postpartum hormones that stimulate your breastfeeding stuff. So the answer is you may expect to see a little bit prior, especially for pumping or something, but otherwise I would say no, it's not until your baby's born. Now, if you're breastfeeding while you're pregnant, that's a whole nother story. Typically, if you're still removing, then you can continue to breastfeed. Usually you see a little bit of a taper off in milk supply towards the end, or it changes. And a lot of times kids wean on their own because the consistency, the flavor, it changes. So yes and no. The other question is, when should you use the Hakka versus pumping? Hannah, I'm going to let you chime in on this because you have experience with both. And I can.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that like I pump like instead of the feed. So like she'll feed or like, and I pump milk. Like she'll have a bottle and I'll pump. And so if I'm out and about doing errands or whatever, and then like someone else taking care of her, then she could take a bottle of, stuff from the freezer, and then I'll pump when I get home. And the Hakka is not like, it's not like, oh, I'm just going to put the Hakka on instead of feeding her. It's like during a feed, I would put that on and then like put it on the other one. And it's like to get some extra milk that you can like, put away, but also especially in the beginning to like stimulate just more versus pumping. I didn't do at all the first however long because
probably 2 weeks.
Yeah. Until things felt for me like pretty like, okay, like established.
We got it.
Because that can kind of cause like more of like an oversupply versus a Hakka doesn't really cause that because it's like a slow, right?
Subtle removal. Yeah. I would say my summary for that would be the Hakka is to help stimulate your milk supply, increase it slowly or get it going early on and begin to save some extra versus a pump replaces a feed. Or if you actually do have low supply and you really need to stimulate the breast, for somebody that has a normal supply that's feeding her baby on the breast enough that like we haven't had any supply issues, there is no need to pump. And in fact, that oversupply I've mentioned, but that can be actually more complicated and harder to manage than an undersupply sometimes. So it's a balance where like she throws the pump on, and I've heard providers say like, well, and then pump for 10 minutes after you feed. 10 minutes is your full feed. That is a full feed for this baby, right? Because she has so much supply. And then Riley's really good at feeding and like has a really good suck and really pretty active when she feeds. Now, most babies, you need at least 10 minutes, like both boobs. So like 20 total, but flex and flow on that because as long as they're gaining weight and they have diapers, which she is just like a chunker now, you're good to go. So pumping replaces a feed, or if you have low milk supply where you're really trying to stimulate the breasts while you're pumping, if you're having an issue with the letdown, think about your baby, think loving thoughts, watch them cry on a video or something. And a lot of times that'll help stimulate the letdown. It's like very hormonal. And then the Hakka is again, just to help that gentle stimulation of collecting the extra and then getting milk supply up to par, helping milk volume change, etc. I feel like we talked in circles on that
if you want to have stuff in the freezer, like do Hakka because it's not like messing a lot with like your supply of like risking oversupply, but you're constantly freezing some milk, which is like if you're wanting to have that backup, that's a good way to do it. That's like, just not. It's better than like pumping extra every single day, potentially.
Yeah. Cool. I'm just going to scroll back. You guys have so many amazing questions, which I don't think we're going to get to all of them because we're already at an hour and 10 minutes, which
Gosh.
I know last time I think they were like the first time around they were at hour 45. Tongue and lip tie, clipping does help. Okay, for any particular diet recommendations to up supply, how to increase my milk supply, I actually have an entire video on that. So I'm going to send you that way. Is it okay to pump prior to baby getting here to save colostrum? Yes, it is. Don't do it before 37 weeks because it can cause some premature cramping. Don't expect to get anything. Okay. Expectations are not one single drop. And just because you don't have one single drop does not mean that you don't have milk to feed your baby. It's just that you haven't given birth yet. Surprise, right? But I would say a manual expression, you can put a pump on. There is a new product from Lancino that I just got that is a colostrum collector that connects to your pump where you put it on the nipple and then like with the flange. And then what happens is instead of it pumping into the bottle, it collects in this little collector that a syringe can twist onto or stick to, and you suck it into the syringe. It's brilliant. I just saw it at the A1 conference. So I can link that down below if you're like, this manual expression thing, I totally forgot about this when we were talking about manual expression. I don't like people to be dependent upon gadgets. Okay. I want you to be totally independent, be able to feed anywhere with your hands, your body can do it. So, but there is a really cool thing if you're trying to pump that way and save colostrum. Yeah, harvesting colostrum. I think we talked about that enough. Cool. Any other things, Hannah, tips you want to share? I'm going to scroll through Instagram questions and see if there's any other big ones.
Last time I didn't breastfeed in public a lot because I didn't really need to go anywhere because of COVID. It was like during the shutdowns, at least at the beginning. And even like my work was online for so long after that like breastfeeding out and about was not a huge thing that I did. But this time it has been more, and especially because I had a 2-year-old who like we would go places with him and even just go to the park. So yeah, I think breastfeeding out and about can feel really overwhelming if you haven't done it. But something that I really like that is a product that I'm like feeling like I'm dependent on now out and about. Is the Tush Baby. It's like this, they call it a baby carrier. I don't even know where it would be.
I know, we should have collected all
I'm going to get it.
Okay, you get it. Somebody actually asked this in an Instagram question. What is she using? So if you saw on Instagram, I posted a picture of Hannah breastfeeding on the boat. We just went to a cabin as a family. And her husband made such fun of this product. And we should have brought all the products. I'm going to
get some.
I am going to
do a different video. But I wanted to
we could totally do a different video. Should we do a different video and go live with all the products after this and then save it later?
Well, okay, so
show it. This is a teaser.
And then
we're going to go live.
I'm going to go all into it.
We're going to get
because I'm really obsessed with it. Okay, so products. Let's talk about clothing stuff at the product one.
Yeah, we'll save it. We're going to come back for a product, all the fun things that we use.
Yeah, so we'll do the product one. So I guess, were there any other questions?
Show the touch.
No, we'll do it another. Okay. We'll go live right now.
Okay, we'll go live in just a second.
Okay, but was there any other questions that didn't have to do with products?
Okay. Was recovery process easier the second time or harder for you, Hannah?
I'm getting more energy. I feel like
you got excited about the products.
No, I feel like at the beginning I was a little like zoned, which if you have a baby, you can imagine, like you understand that like sometimes you just sit there, like literally, okay, so we went to a cabin this last week and like people kept asking like, do you want to do something fun? Because we're out on a boat on a pontoon and I was there with Riley and like people were playing with Dakota.
Oh, we were in the water. I was in the water for like 6 hours.
And whatever, people like, you want to do something fun? I'm like, I'm good. And I'm just like literally sitting there zoning out for like hours, like
postpartum brain, who can relate?
But anyway, that's how I felt a little bit at the beginning of the live. Like, I agree with what Sarah's saying.
Oh, we're ready for round 2.
Okay. So I felt like recovery was easier this time, mostly because of mindset, probably. Like I knew what to expect a little bit more. Obviously, each time is like a little bit different, and there are things that can be really different. But in general, I knew a lot more of like what to expect and like how to prepare and like, okay, yeah, like I'm not going to be sleeping and that's okay. And like, that will be for this long or whatever. Like that's how it was last time or whatever. And yeah. And then I think like physically, I saw that it was like faster this time. But then I like was like, I'm good, woohoo. And then like I was like, yeah, we can totally go do that. And then like kind of pushed myself too hard too early. And then the next like 2 days I like crashed again and like took like a dip. So yeah, that was my experience. So I think like if you do feel awesome, like just remember like you're still recovering from having a baby and like it's okay to just
Totally.
rest and like you may have a dip or not feel awesome if you overdo it, and probably you feel awesome because you're getting enough rest and you're taking it easy. And I was still taking pain meds, and so I was just like, yeah, I'm great. And then it was like, wow, okay, I think I maybe did too much a little bit too early. So I had kind of like a dip because I was like, this is amazing. But yeah. And yeah, I think like mindset of just like last time I was like, oh my God, like this is really overwhelming. Will I never sleep again? Like just all these things. And Dakota's like a really good sleeper as a toddler. So like just the hope that like, and like just enjoying this season more of like, oh my gosh, now I know like, oh, it goes so fast. And like, she's so little and I enjoy the cuddles, and I enjoy like, even at night, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm there cuddling her, and have like a better mindset of like, oh my word, I'm up in the middle of the night. This is so weird. And like, when will this ever end? And like, versus this time being like, this will end. And so I'm going to like enjoy it more this time.
Cute. It's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to comment on Tori's question that just came in, and then we have to be done, and then we'll come back for a live. If you want to keep watching, we'll show all the things and we'll save all of it. Tori just asked, with the Haka, does it matter that you're just giving the baby foremilk and no hind milk? This is a great question. So there's foremilk and hind milk. The hind milk takes longer to access. It the hind milk has higher fat for weight gain, which we love. If you're hocking both boobs, you're getting foremilk and hind milk with them. So the first boob, when you first put it on, oh, somebody's awake. Do you want to come say hi? Those of you that saw the first birth, Dakota is awake. Come say hi. He's the best. Come this way on this side. See the cord? Come around, or we'll lift you over. Maybe
just come under.
So the hind milk, if you're putting on, you'll get foremilk, and the baby eats off this, and then the second time you get hind milk.
This is Dakota. He's so big.
Can you say hi? There's people watching.
To see yourself?
Who is that? Who's up there? He's like stunned.
Yeah.
Yeah, cute.
It's Dakota.
Say hi. I speak. Dakota, get down. Okay.
All right, under the tunnel again.
Under the tunnel. Okay, you run.
Bye.
Bye. We're going to end for now. So you're getting both foremilk and hind milk if you put it on the boob that you've already fed on.
He's so cute.
He's so cute.
He's adorable.
So fun. All right. You want to come see again? All right. Do you want to come? Come sit while we say goodbye to everyone. Can you come with Rara? Come here. You just look so stunned.
Come under the tunnel.
Under the tunnel. Okay, come
All
here.
right. We're going to say bye.
Okay. So thanks everyone for being with me here today. If you want more, you can check out the description box down below for all my links, all the things. I will link things later when I get a moment. So stay tuned for all of the things that we mentioned from this, and come back for more later. Dakota, can you say, don't forget to flex and flow.
Flex and flow.
Yes. And we'll see you later.